So, who's ever here wanted to have superpowers? Who's ever been enjoying comics and just think, I wish I could take that fireball and just throw it off into the corner and wreck this car? Well, you know what? Today's your lucky day. Because you get to have your favorite superpower. It's just going to go really, really badly. And congratulations, you have superpowers. It won't end well. So, a little bit of background about myself. My name is Dr. Ryder Barnum. I have a PhD in chemistry from Louisiana State University, as well as dual degrees in chemistry and theater from Loyola University in New Orleans, because I couldn't decide. So, I am a professional chemistry demonstrator for schools and events for over 15 years. Fun fact, in grad school, I got paid for 3 years to travel and blow things up for children. So, it was great. So, I am also an industrial R&D chemist. I've been in the chemistry industry or chemical manufacturing for over 10 years. And as a little geek admission past playing card, I've been a moderator and participant in fan-based RPG chats for Marvel, DC, and about 1,000 other geek-related things over 10 years.
Nerd.
Yeah. Woo! I earned it! So, quick notes beforehand. These are the things we will not be discussing. Magic, because while there's some rules to it, it's just magic. Don't worry about that. The science of power origins. Yes, I know there's like a lightning bolt that strikes through chemicals, that hits Barry Allen, that he gets this super speed. We know that doesn't make sense. Despite the number of times we've doused ourselves in chemicals for fun at work. That does not work. So we are not going to adjust that. Just, you have those powers, congratulations, then the laws of physics take over. We are not going to be looking at multiple powers. You get one. You get one, whatever your favorite one is, you get that. All right. You also do not get decades of experience to hone those powers. No, because if we're talking about whether you survive your own existence, we're looking at your training montage. Are you going to survive all that little section of your movie and actually make it to later on? Just to cover myself, all images and video in this presentation, assuming for other ones too, are all of fair use. So now that I won't be sued, there are superheroes that I would just consider gods. You don't have to read that entire list. The fact that I had to make multiple columns for someone's superpower list is ridiculous. So because of that, in Superman, of course, anything they can pull a Deus Ex Machina out of his hat, they can fix everything, it'll be fine. But a spoiler alert is that you're going to need combinations of powers just to survive your own existence. Pretty much just living or using your powers for fun is going to kill you. But since I can't go through every single power in the Superpower Omnibus, we're going to go through a few of the oldies but goodies. Super strength, flight, elasticity, and super speed. Let's ruin your day. Super strength, yeah! Come on, that's going to be awesome. You can punch through a wall, you can lift heavy objects, you're going to have better running speed, better jumping speed, because D&D nerds know, your jumping is based on your strength. In fact, the most of you laughed at that is either you are a nerd or made fun of them. So, increased combat damage. What could go wrong? Welcome to a world made of glass. Every single thing around you. Strength is relative. You're like, I'm going to pick up this piece of paper. I'm going to throw this chair through a wall. An elephant's level of light touch is very different than your level of a light touch. So everything that you touch, every person that you interact with, during your training montage, you're probably going to maim. You're probably going to destroy every object around you. A great scene from the movie Sky High shows the destruction of a cell phone while angrily tapping it, only to open a drawer to have about 7 on backup. So with that, regular destruction of property, infrastructure, personal as well, regular injuries to people, as well as difficulty operating machinery. If you think of the number of times you have to take a shower and just barely twist it as hard as you possibly can to get that one difference of like 50 degrees, that's your whole life. All right, let's look at supporting items from a fixed area. People always talk about force. When you're talking about strength, I'm going to get all this force into it. Pressure is absolutely neat. So let's look at this. Pressure is force divided by area. So one good thing we all kind of know is 35 psi, 40 is in your car tire. Okay, it's pressurized, balloons, things like that. So you have 100 psi is required to break your skin. Now that's weird. But at the same time, think about it. You have a needle That needle goes to your skin really easily. Got a very, very tiny cross-sectional area. Very small area, doesn't require a lot of force. If I were to put my fist through someone's skin, that's going to take a lot more force. Along with that, 160 psi is required to break the adult human femur. I hope none of you already knew that. Lifting a Toyota Prius, let's just pick one that, we're at least in Asheville, y'all know what a Prius is. If I said Ford F-150, that would be all of this entire set. So, you've now got 170 psi on each hand, 340 psi per each one of these. This would by far break an average person's femur, but it's okay because the car can survive that. It's a Prius, it's okay. But if you're super strong, you're also fine. Let's ramp that up. So, if you have, let's say, a Boeing 737 that's above you, and let's just assume that someone graciously just placed it on you, and not that it crashed down on top of you, that is over 400,000 pounds when stationary. This is the equivalent of 23,000 psi across both hands. Let's forget the needle. You have now punctured yourself straight through that airplane. I also want to point out that the yield strength and deformation psi of aircraft grade aluminum between 2 to 4 millimeters thick is 3,000 to 5,000 psi. You have shredded that thing. Anyone that you hope to lift out of that, even if it was graciously placed in your hands, they're gone. It is going to tear through everything. Okay, fine. Super strength's a bust. Let's go to flight. Flight's great. I hate dealing with airplanes. So you know what? It's cheap, it's efficient. You get to soar through the skies. You don't have to deal with other people around you. You can fly, you can travel faster, fewer obstacles. You have aerial combat. Everyone else got this petty 2 dimensions they fight in, just like, front and back, punch someone to the side. You can do weird aerial kicks going down. Now, maybe you do gravity manipulation, maybe you have air powers, density. Does not matter. I can ruin them all. Downsides, and I'm so glad that they covered a number of these things in the Iron Man movie. So, of course, let's get it out of the way, falling from extreme heights. That's usually bad. You're probably going to die from that. But let's assume that you don't have a Jarvis to kick in. You also have altitude problems, as seen in this clip, and also what's known as the death zone. They have wind burn and severe wind chill factor. These are things you just kind of think about and may make you have like a lighter coat. Or it's just, I don't know, let's get some like goggles on. Oh, it's so much worse. So when you're looking at altitude, there's sea level, just fine. This is here. I was born and raised around here. I was raised in like New Orleans area. So for reference, the tallest buildings are around here. It's around 800, 900. So we're going above that. High altitude does cause problems. You've got Everest way up here. Once you get to very high altitude, you start having tingling sensations, headache, fatigue, and other indications because of altitude sickness and loss of oxygen. Let's go a little higher because we haven't even gone even higher. Let's go to 10,000 feet. This is a very good point for reference. This is where most people do skydiving at. So they kind of have that reference. You're way above buildings. At this 16,000, you are going to experience unconsciousness due to the lack of oxygen. There are only a few mountain ranges that actually even meet this area, and the only way you can even not pass out is by doing pre-breathing or having an oxygen suit. Above that, the death zone. 26,000 feet, and your cells do not even make new tissue. You will not survive in it. You're already unconscious. Like you've left that point behind. As an extra reference, I want to point out that your average, every single scene in like movies where you have them flying along aircrafts, like in 747s, that's 35,000 feet. I never saw a storm just fall out of the sky just from lack of oxygen. So, altitude versus temperature. Let's say you got a nice 60 degrees outside. I love that temperature, fantastic temperature. Things get cold very quickly. At 60, when you're at 10,000 feet, that 60 degrees outside has now changed to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. That is cold. That is below freezing. Let's ramp it up. Let's say you want to fly right next to that plane. Even though let's just hang out and stay here still next to the plane is negative 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Every time that you're flying on Delta, American Airlines, or surviving through Spirit, You are absolutely outside. It is negative 50 degrees. You just don't think about that and realize it, but it's negative 50 outside of there. So when you complain about the temperature in your aircraft, it could be a lot worse. Along with that, wind chill is surprisingly annoying. So beyond just making it slightly colder, you actually see a decrease when you're at 50 and 30 degrees Fahrenheit. You actually see a drop in about 20 degrees from what you experience. And that's even whenever you were sitting here at Mach 0.5, Mach 1, wanting to go super fast. And Mach 0.7 is around where most aircrafts fly at, just as a reference. You can also tell the police officer you were driving your car at Mach 0.1, which is around 70 miles per hour. It just sounds really cool if you say it that way. So along with this, the air temperature, when you get to the bottom part of the chart, everything in purple, that's where you experience frostbite within 5 minutes. Your flight better be very quick. And additionally, and I know this is tiny, but everything that's written in the negative 80s, which is everything that you would have just experienced from what I just said, that's frostbite in under 2 minutes. They cannot figure that beyond there because it depends on too many factors. You have a 2-minute long flight before all your extremities start turning black. You are covered in ice and unconscious and falling to the ground. Yeah, flight sucks. So, all right, how about elasticity? You know, you can do expansion, compression, elongation, deformation. Just move yourself in all manner of ways. Your body is like rubber, or anyone else you choose. Increase in attack range. You have neat fighting capabilities that no one else kind of has. I mean, look at Elastigirl. Elastigirl, or I've seen Mr. Fantastic do similar things, or Bandman, Plastic Man, just any of them. You can create increased durability. It's not an extra power in this case because your durability is somewhat due to the fact that you have a deceleration of objects. If you punch a wall, it hurts. Punch a pillow, doesn't hurt as much. That's because of that crumble zone that goes in between. You also have organic constructs that you can make. You can make yourself into a boat, into a parachute. Nothing can go wrong. These are fascinating. So which type of elasticity do you have? Size or shape modification? And I'm sure everybody is wondering, Ryder, why does that matter? I am so glad you asked, audience. Okay, I don't think anyone else cares about Boyle's Law, but I do. So, combined gas law, there's a neat relationship between pressure, volume, and temperature. PV equals over T is equal to PV over T. If it changes on one side, it's going to change on the other. So, let's assume that temperature is not changing. For example, if you have an compressed air canister and you press it out, dust out a keyboard, it gets colder. That's because the pressure went down, the temperature equally went down. If you're an elastic person and you're moving, temperature, let's assume, stays the same because you're not going to boil yourself. You've now got a problem with pressure versus volume. As your volume decreases, your pressure will increase. An equivalent of this is your blood pressure should be, the doctor needs to be quiet, 120 over 80. That's a good blood pressure. A 20% increase in that pressure, which is the same thing as a reduced volume. So just keep that in mind. So let's say you have a 20% increase in size. You made yourself just a little bigger. My body just got barely bigger. You will now experience rapid hypotension. That includes sudden loss of blood pressure, as well as crashing and syncope, tunnel vision, vision loss, loss of consciousness, dizziness, nausea, sweating, weak pulse, and even death. All right, I'm going to shrink myself down a little bit, maybe to get under that door so I can get to the villain. Well, I hope it's not more than 20%, because you'll experience headache, confusion, chest pain, difficulty breathing, visual disturbances, and high heart rate. Or if you dreamt of going 30%, you will get to hypertensive crisis for immediate cardiac arrest. Okay, fine, shape modification. You know what? I fixed this problem. I just need to make sure that I just don't deform myself too much. I make sure to keep the exact same volume, and so if one of my arms gets longer, the other side just turns into a shriveled little arm or something. Doesn't look cool, but yeah. So, your odds of surviving decrease greatly. Good job, audience. So, actually, this is kind of boring. There we go. That's a lot easier to understand. So, when you have your angle of force in this torque, and torque is not just something that you have to worry about with muscle cars, you have the length of your radius, which is your arm, the force that you're exerting to lift that weight up. all of your strength is due to this. The cross-section of your muscle fibers, as well as the intensity of recruitment, just the intensity at which of you are lifting things. Your arm length increases. Guess what? You just halved your strength. You've also now stretched your body out, but your volume doesn't change. It now got skinnier. You've got a pipe cleaner from her arm that is holding something up and dropping everything. Elastigirl would have dropped a piece of paper at the length that she was trying to attend to. Okay, fine. Let's go to super speed. What could possibly go wrong with this one? And I must stress this in advance, I love super speed. As a kid, I loved Quicksilver, I loved Flash, they were fantastic heroes. And then my heart was just destroyed when I found out they weren't real. So, you have greatly enhanced movement, of course, travel speed improves, enhanced agility, enhanced dodging, and I'll give you one, you can actually run on water. No matter what weight you are, if you are running fast enough within every bounds that I've seen in TV shows, it's fine. That surface tension will allow it just like skipping a rock across water. So you get one. Downsides, you have the force of a speeding car or a missile. If anyone has never seen the TV show The Boys on Amazon, if you have not, fantastic show. Not for the kids, but fantastic show. We see A-Train, or somewhat, as he runs into a woman who he has now turned into a giant bloody blob. His speed is enough to completely decimate flesh, and as we've already seen, people are squishy. So, you have a very high caloric intake. Yes, most TV shows kind of cover that, which is good. What I've been calling the dark side of Bernoulli's principle, which is my favorite thing to tell people. Momentum, wind force, wind load, as well as wind burn and air friction. Let's get started. So, oh, God. Why did I put that up there? Okay, who's heard of Bernoulli's principle at all? In a less ridiculous way? Nerds. I'm sorry, we've flown paper airplanes before. We understand lift. So, in the basic premise of lift, using Bernoulli's principle, air goes faster over the top of the wing, pressure goes down, and it lifts up. Air goes underneath it, it's not going nearly as fast, therefore, higher pressure, lift. We'll just worry about that part. Now, I want to point out Mach 0.7 is a very interesting speed. That is 530 miles per hour. That's very specific because that is the speed that most airplanes are flying at. Equally interesting, when you have the pressure differences, this is a curved wing. What shape is your head? Is your head curved? Yes, it is. So the human head is curved. Therefore, all the wind going on the outside of your body actually is moving at a higher speed, which means the pressure decreases. Now, that matters not to a person who's running a Boston Marathon, but it matters when you're trying to break the sound barrier. At Mach 0.7, you now experience over 5 psi of pressure differential, which is enough to rupture the human eardrum on both sides and split it outwards, causing internal damage, as well as permanent hearing loss. You will show up to every single crime scene with bleeding ears, assuring every single citizen they'll be fine. All right, fine. What about all those cool little stoppings and turns? If you just said your biggest problem is going to be taking a right-hand turn, I've seen many drivers with that problem, but let's just focus on speedsters for a second. With this, you have to focus on momentum. I mean, we have lots of different video clips of the speedsters running with lightning behind them, zigzagging through the city to find that bomb. People forget that with momentum, velocity is not just speed, it's also the direction. That's a very important distinction. Said almost no one ever. But you have the mass times the velocity, so you got mass of the human and the velocity. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Wrong button. So when it's going in this direction and you turn a hard right, what you just experienced was a car crash. Your internal organs have not decided to stop moving forward. They're still going forward at that Mach 0.7 or whatever speed you're running at as you take a right-hand turn. How much damage could that do? So, using one of these formulas, I've just kind of broken this down into easy enough terms for people to understand. So 50 miles per hour, think about this when you're driving a car, as a running speed of Mach 0.07. Hence why I said on the interstate, you're driving about Mach 0.1. Hitting a brick wall at this speed is the equivalent of falling out of an 8-story building. That is including deceleration, that is including air friction, and including everything else. You do not want to see the Excel sheets that I did to make this entire thing. I think the last file size was something like a 30 megabyte Excel file, which takes a lot. So, it was also covered in like 6 other powers too. So, 100 miles per hour is the equivalent of 33 stories tall of a fall. 121, very important, seems kind of weird, that's 49 stories. You've now reached terminal velocity. You cannot fall any further because the air resistance has stopped you from falling farther. You could go higher up, you could do 100, but you're still going to only have the equivalent of that fall. You're not surviving any of these. I'm just going to point that out. If anyone thinks they can survive an 8-story building fall, kudos to them. I want to have your serotonin levels. So at 383, which is Mach 0.5 with no air resistance, that's equivalent of 400 stories. And at Mach 0.1, it's 2,000. This is, of course, ridiculous. No one's ever going to fall that high or anything, but it exists. Fine. Let's go to Mach 0.1. Or sorry, Mach 1. The wind load on your face is not something that you would normally think about. However, the force that is existing just from you running, and this does very much look at a human face as an oval and look at the square. I had to research some weird things to find these numbers. Looking at the average estimated sphere radius, the drag coefficient around a human head, it comes out to over 165 pounds of force. And I want to point out that a keg of beer from behind the bar is 161. Barry Allen is running while holding a stainless steel keg of beer in front of his face every instant. Forget bugs hitting your face. Oh, you've long since passed this. Let's go faster. Mach 5, congratulations, you're on fire. This is NASA re-entry module speeds at the minimum air ignition temperature. What if you want to go back in time and fix all of your problems? Screw physics. I'm going to make all new problems with Flashpoint. That's not a spoiler alert, Flashpoint's existed for a long time. So, think of the worst version of riding a motorcycle without a helmet and bugs hitting your face, except the bugs are atoms, and multiply that by Chernobyl. If anyone is a fan of the comic series XKCD or What If you're not, I see someone clapping, good for you.
Yeah.
So, they have a fantastic, the #1 comic they did was relativistic baseball. Highly recommend to look through it. So, the space in front of your face is becoming a fusion reactor, where all of the air is doing a nuclear fusion reaction with the contents of, in this case, ball, or in this case, your face. Afterwards, there's a fusion zone right in front, and you're going so fast, there is a near vacuum behind your head. The ball is the victim. You are going to be a fireball with an X-ray front in front of you as a giant sweeping ball of plasma expands around you and disintegrates every single person that you run by in every single building. And as the moment you stop, all that energy is dissipated to your surroundings around you, and the plasma wave creates a nuclear explosion. In conclusion, science is a process and not a tool. Tools are not inherently bad or good. You can use it for boring things or fun things. Think critically and follow the scientific rabbit hole to places of wonder, because as you just follow the numbers, you get to some weird places. Thank you, everybody, for coming to Asheville's Nerd Night. Again, my name is Dr. Ryder Barnum. Thank you very much.